is understanding business ownership structures. And our guest joining us via Zoom shortly says that choosing the right business structure is like picking the foundation of your house. It sets the stage for everything that follows. The impacts that it has on your legal responsibilities, tax obligations, and how your business can grow. Joining us via Zoom is Sister Humaira Mullah. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Hilaal Live.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to get into this.
My absolute pleasure. Now, we know that you've been nominated at the Minara Awards recently, which means that you're very competent in the business field, and you also give advice with regards to other individuals that would like to get into the business field as well. So let's start from the beginning. If one is considering opening up a business, what are the different entities that they can go into?
Okay, so there's a few, right? And the most common that individuals tend to go into is a company.
Okay.
And I think it's become common practice now to do that. But I'm just going to name four for you, which is the sole proprietor, the partnership, the PTY Ltd, which is your company, and then you have a non-profit organization. So while this is a form of ownership, it's not a for-profit ownership. But I did want to bring that into this topic as well.
Okay. So if you want to unpack very quickly how those various business entities work so that our audience could understand which would better work for them.
Okay, so a sole proprietor is the simplest and most straightforward business structure. It means that you and your business are one legally, but it also means that you are on the hook for all of your business debts. So an example of this is like a home industry individual, right? They bake and they sell from home. They operate under their own name. They do their own marketing. They do their own admin work. They collect the cash. So they run all of the operations. And while they enjoy the freedom and the simplicity, they do find it rather challenging to scale their business. And there's also no protection between them and their personal assets.
Right.
I'm giving you a brief overview of all of them, and then we can get into it.
Sure. Okay, great. The partnership is definitely one that needs serious consideration because we've had so many issues, challenges when people enter into a partnership agreement.
That's correct. And I think one of the main reasons for that is not having a partnership agreement. I would say in all forms of business enterprises, it's extremely important to have an agreement. Even if you are in business yourself, just so that you have a guide along the way. And in a partnership, it's even more important because you need to know things like what is the profit share, who is responsible for what duties, and how would that partnership dissolve. So if somebody says they'd like to walk out today because they've had a dispute, what happens to the partnership? Okay. And as detailed as you can have that partnership agreement, you should.
Yeah, great advice. So we're chatting to Humaira Mullah, who is part of HM Accounting, giving us valuable advice around how to conduct our business and what type of business entity to go into as well. Now, as part of running a business, sometimes it's not always so rosy. There may be a few challenges along the way. But let's get into some of the more integral parts of opening up a business. For example, your admin and maybe some of your compliance requirements. What are those that business owners need to consider?
So this one I'm going to speak of the individual and the company.
Okay.
So a company, very quickly, it's a legal form of ownership. It's an established enterprise. You have to register with CIPC to have this form of enterprise. There's continuity as well. So if something happens to the director, the enterprise can continue on.
Okay.
And one of the things I've noticed through my work with a company is that the directors tend to use the company business bank account for personal expenses as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it may sound simple, but I would say separate business and personal finances to rather draw a salary from the company and use it in your personal name than to mix up the funds in the business.
Mm.
In the same way, that would be for the sole trader. The sole trader is very heavily regulated by SARS
Mm-hmm.
because they need to make sure that the expenses that you are claiming in the business for tax purposes is actually a business expense. And it's quite difficult to differentiate between the two because, in essence, a sole proprietor, you are your business, right?
Absolutely.
So my better advice as well is to open up a separate bank account, even though it's a sole proprietor. You can open up a secondary bank account which you use just for your business transactions, money's coming in and money's going out.
Okay, great. So we chatted sole proprietor partnership, and maybe let's delve into the PTY Limited, because here's where it can get a bit tricky with regards to PTY Limited in terms of the various responsibilities that you need to have as a business owner.
Okay, so with the PTY Limited, you've got annual CIPC submissions that you need to do, which is called annual returns. And I'm sure listeners have heard of this before, but they don't understand what it is or why they need to pay it. So in essence, annual return is a rental that you pay to keep the company active each year. And a lot of businesses tend to not pay it on time and incur penalties. So they pay it after 3 years because they think that once you register a business, that's it. But there's actually an ongoing cost, which is your CIPC cost. The other cost is for your taxes. You've got to file a company tax return every year. And that is whether you are conducting business with the company or not.
Right.
When you do not file the return, you incur interest and penalties.
Okay.
And then years down the line, you have a big bill, and the business owners are not sure what it is because they haven't traded, but it's actually your interest and penalties.
Yeah. So we ran through things very quickly, but I think if we can get into maybe some of the pros and cons with regards to each entity, because somebody watching this interview may think, okay, I've always wanted to open up an NPO. I've always wanted to open up a sole proprietor or a business account, going into business with a friend of mine or a colleague or a family member. Maybe run through from the top, sole proprietor, PTY Limited, NPO, some of the pros and cons that our audience needs to keep in mind.
Okay, so for a sole proprietor, it's your of enterprise. There's no registrations, which means there's no admin cost. There's just your individual tax return. So it's, again, not too much of compliance. It's not too many accounting fees. It's really just straightforward, simple. But the downfalls of a sole trader is that there's no continuity to the business. So if something happens to you, that's the end of that business.
Right.
The other thing is that if you are choosing to go via a sole trader, as your business starts growing, because you are paying individual tax rates, your tax starts increasing because the individual tax works on a sliding scale. So that the higher you earn, the more taxes you pay. Whereas with the company, it stops at a fixed rate.
Right.
So I would say those are some of the biggest advantages and disadvantages with a sole trader.
Okay.
The other thing that I've noticed is that when you are a sole trader, somehow investors as well as government organizations don't take you seriously enough. So it lacks a credibility issue. I guess with the sole trader, they're not sure if this individual is serious about continuing with their business into the future or not, because of the fact that it can dissolve at any time. So you'll notice that a lot of government grants ask for registered companies that are trading for 2 years. There's very few that allow you to be an individual and apply for that grant.
Okay.
Suppliers work in the same way. They prefer a registered company.
Okay. All right. We're going to continue the conversation. We're going to take a very short break. When we come back, we're going to chat about some of the pros and cons with some of the other business entities, especially NPOs as well. Thanks for watching us on Hilaal Live. We'll be back shortly. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Hilaal Live. Now, we all dream about owning our own business, and we'd like to make it as easy and efficient as possible. So I thought let's invite someone who deals with business every day onto the program to tell us and give us more advice. And joining us via Zoom, Sister Hilaal Moola. Jazakallah so much once again, Sister Hilaal, for joining us and giving us valuable insight into the business world.
It's an absolute pleasure.
So
I love to do this.
I can see the passion comes through as well. And I'm sure these are questions that you get faced with every day as well. Before the break, we delved into the various business entities, and you were educating us on some of the pros and cons that our audience needs to consider should they want to open up a business. And I think we stopped at NPOs. Now, we often see various NPOs release their internal audit every year for the public, to scrutinize. What are the pros and cons about having an NPO?
For an NPO, one of the tax perks is that the donations can be deductible for the donors. So you do tend to get individuals or companies who are willing to donate because they can deduct it on their end. And this obviously brings in funds for the NPO.
Mm-hmm.
A registered NPO also has credibility. You are more likely to get in donations and sponsorships if it's a registered enterprise, because if it was an individual, they could take that money and, run away any day. But it's to be more liable, whether it's a private company or an NPO itself. Also, it's got a limited liability, very much a PTY, so like a company, whereas the directors or the trustees' personal assets and liabilities are not associated with that of the NPO. So if an individual trustee is liable for any debts, it does not become the business debt. And I guess one of the biggest pros of it is that it makes a positive impact. NPOs are focused on achieving meaningful and societal goals.
Yeah.
The things to consider, not so much as cons, but it would definitely be that there's no profits in the business, right? The profits are reinvested into the business. They are not distributed because it is for public benefit.
Right.
There's also very high compliance demands.
I see. Shukran so much for sharing that as well. But, we want to educate and give our audience a well-informed decision before entering into a business. So maybe give us some stats around South African SMMEs. What's been the trend? And I'm sure COVID has exacerbated quite a few challenges that our business community has faced. Some have pivoted and managed to, just continue with a successful business. Some unfortunately haven't. What's been the latest stat?
So, an enterprise in South Africa, unfortunately, there's about 70 to 80% of small businesses in South Africa that don't make it past the first 3 years.
That's a staggering amount And you know, it's so sad to hear as well. Nobody would like to hear that a business has closed down. Unfortunately, that's the harsh truth of what is happening in South Africa. What do you think some of the pitfalls are of why this number is so high?
Definitely poor compliance, not staying compliant with CIPC, with SARS, as well as inadequate financial management.
Mm.
So remember, good financial management makes it a lot easier to get loans, to attract investors, but also to understand how your business is doing. If you have the figures on hand, you can utilize those figures. So those are definitely the main reasons that I would say that we've seen where businesses do not make it past 3 year mark.
Okay.
Managing your finances is important for long-term growth.
Do you find at times that business owners get so caught up in producing their products and, you know, everyday hustle of getting new clients or servicing their existing clients, that they forget about the fundamentals of running a business? Now, should someone find themselves in this predicament, what is your advice?
You know, I'm an entrepreneur myself, right? So I totally get it. I understand that there's so many things as an individual business owner that you need to get done in a day. But you've got to commit and make it a non-negotiable to sit with your finances at least once a week.
Right.
Just to get an idea of the monies that are coming in and the monies that are going out. If that's the least that you could do that. And thankfully, we're also in, you know, an environment now where there's technology all over. So there's many accounting apps that can help you to track your finances. So you just got to glance at it, and you know your information is there. Obviously, again, getting an accountant if you can afford to. But like I said, there are cheap and affordable ways of looking at your finances. There's also free applications for this.
Right. One of the things that some business owners fail to understand, that if you are working in certain industries, that you need to be certified and have the proper certification in order to deliver a you know, above par or a SABS approved you know, standard certificate in that specific industry. How important, how integral is that?
It's extremely important. Again, it assists you with your credibility, but also remember, it's not just about getting the certificate. It is what you learn getting that certificate that allows for your business to contribute in a better way, in a more positive way. So definitely, I would say, you know, I know there's a lot of compliance, but it does have its benefits as well.
Yeah. So with the onset of social media and the impact that it's created in the world, and again, I draw reference to COVID and how limited we were to go out and physically be in contact and, you know, do business. So social media has played such a huge role in that as well. Are these some of the questions that your clients ask you about how to better their marketing, how to get their reach in avenues that they wouldn't ordinarily do business? Are these, you know, concerns of your clients as well?
It does tend to be concerns of my clients. And in this way, I tell them to start small. So even if you create a little Facebook page and you start advertising, or if you are a product-based business, you could open up an online store on Facebook. You could join groups for a product, for a service, and start advertising your products on those groups. So I would definitely say that advertising, especially with how many forms of social media we have now, you can do it on a very small budget.
Yeah, I think it's great advice. And it's always, you know, nice to spread that word and ask people to share your services as well, because once we see those lovely comments where you've delivered such great advice or great service to a client, that message will just spread and spread and spread, and inshallah, your business grows as well. Humaira, we're going to invite you back next week because there's so much more to talk about. We just, touched the surface with regards to business and wanting to go into business. But if you want to recap very quickly and leave us with some of your valuable insight on how to structure your business and the couple of steps that you need to lay the foundation before you can, get further.
I think the first thing is deciding if you would like to do it as a secondary income or a sideline job, or you're still not sure about how big this venture is going to end up. Start as a sole trader. Start simple and start small.
Mm-hmm.
If you have found individuals who you can combine your skills, your resources, and your money with, and you guys can enter into a profitable venture, then go for a partnership. But just remember to have a partnership agreement in place. If you know this is now serious, you'd like to gain credibility, this is going to be a long-term company or enterprise that you are embarking on, then a PTY is the form of ownership that you should go for. And if it's for a good cause, if you're trying to just make a difference in this world, then definitely an NPO. But remember, in any form of ownership that you go with, you've got to take a look at your finances, keep up with the admin, and sit with a tax professional even once and just find out what are the specific laws and regulations for that enterprise before you commit to a specific enterprise.
Absolutely. Valuable insight from Sister Humaira Moola from HM Accounting. Jazakallah so much for affording us your time, leaving us with information that we all can benefit and maybe pass on to other business owners as well. We're going to continue next week. We'd like to invite you back where we can chat about things like, women in business and the various, BEE certificates that one can actually go into as well. And inshallah, encourage more people to create a bit of a side hustle. We know how difficult life is, and this could be an opportunity to encourage people to go into business. Jazakallah so much. Have a wonderful evening. Assalamu alaikum.